Welcome, early birds. We have a few minutes and then we will start the webinar at the top of the hour. Welcome to the webinar. We've got 2 more minutes before we're going to start, but we're glad you're here. Settle in, and we have some good information coming up. All right, we are at the top of the hour, and welcome everyone to 2023 tax filing requirements and 18.6 GP new features that we will be covering after we update you on the tax filing requirements. If we go to the next slide, just a few housekeeping notes. If you are here and you wish to receive CPE credit for this 1 hour, you must answer all the poll questions. Also, I ran into an issue with our last webinar that someone came into the webinar using someone else's login. And that causes a problem because we can't identify you. So if you did not register yourself and you are here and you want CPE, I will need you to register. But if you registered on your own and received the confirmation credit, it will be sent out within 2 weeks of this webinar. And following the webinar, we'll be sending out within the next 48 hours, we'll be sending out the recording, the slides, as well as a survey. And Debbie's going to be sharing a lot of links to solutions that complement the tax filing or the tax requirements. So we will be sending you those links as well. So I am very happy to introduce our speaker today, Debbie Gernitz. She is a senior business consultant for us at LBMC Technology Solutions. She has experience as, and not many of us do, listen to this list. She has experience as a CEO, a controller, a budget administrator, an accounting manager, a financial analyst, and an MIS director. She owned her own business right out of college. And that was after she graduated from Lamar University with a BS degree in accounting and computer science. She has worked in the GP consultant capacity for a number of Great Plains resellers. And she has ventured to the frozen tundra of Fargo, North Dakota to attend Great Plains University. Debbie will be presenting at Community Summit next week in Charlotte, North Carolina. For those of you who are going to be in Charlotte, we hope to see you there. And I am pleased to have her as our presenter today. Debbie, the presentation is all yours.
Well, hello, everybody. We're going to start with telling you what our agenda is today, and we're going to do pre-year end tasks that needed to be taken care of, some rate changes, 18.6 new features. There's any questions that you might have afterwards, and be aware that you can stop me. You can write questions in the chat, put it in the Q&A, and we will stop and ask and answer any questions you might have. And there, at the end of the slides, there's some information about LBMC. Most of y'all are from LBMC as customers that know all about us, but there is information at the end just in case. I want you to remember that there will be 4 poll questions that need to be answered for you to get that CPE credit. So we're going to jump straight into pre-year-end task. So magnetic media. Business services online from the Social Security Administration, you need to apply for or renew your password, submit to W-2s and 1099 to be able to file them online. I sat on the phone with them last week and found out that it could take up to 30 days, if not a little bit longer. So I need y'all to start this process sooner than later to make sure you have everything you need so that you can file. Here are their hours and information about how to get a hold of them. So if you will use this information, you should be able to get your information set up, ready to go in plenty of time. If you're doing payroll, you need to install the AccuWage program onto the workstation. And here is a link to be able to get to that. This will be sent to you. Most of the time, it requires a restart of the workstation when you install it. So if you're having problems, if you install it the day that you're trying to send the file off and you didn't do it early, you might need to restart your machine to get the file to work and send on through. Here's more information again about how to contact either the Business Solutions Online, the AccuWage helpline as well. So what is happening is there are more forms that can be printed with lines in GP. In October of last year, they gave us the 1099 NEC form, and it was great. People did not have to go buy forms and play with the pixels up and down to get them to print correctly in the boxes. So this form really helps out in not needing to buy, and it prints correctly every time. In 18.6, you are getting the miscellaneous form, the interest form, the dividend forms that will also print on blank paper with the lines in the boxes. We've taken the time to test, and the 18.6 forms we exported out and imported into previous versions through 18.3. And 18.3 is where the 1099 NEC form was first introduced and had to be turned into IRS. Since we pulled out a package file, we can help you get those if you're in 18.3, 18.4, 18.5, and do not upgrade at the end of the year to 18.6. You will be able to get that package file that we can import into your system and make sure that the correct security is set, that you can print these new forms and be able to print without having to buy the forms at your local office supply store. Which is the big advantage, is no more purchases. Now then, the new rules that are really changing and driving all of this is if you have 10 or more IRS forms, which include 1099s, W-2s, the Affordable Care Act forms, 1094, 1095Cs, 940, 941, and there's a list of others. In aggregate, there was a law that came out, TD 9972, that states that you're going to be required to do this stuff electronically. So the big question is, are you going to be ready? So let's talk about what it's looking at for finding that cumulative of 10. So if you have 5 1099 interests or dividends in sum total, that becomes 10 returns. Hence, you have to do everything electronically. Another example is an S corporation, and they're electing a small business corporation form, and they have to refile that. So they have the 11120S form. They have 2 forms that are W-2, 2 Affordable Care Act forms as well, 2 1099 dividends. They have 1 940 form and 4 941. That comes up to 12 returns for the calendar year of 2023. So all forms are required to be filled and sent in electronically, both their year-end tax return as well as the other forms. But notice that y'all have already been filing your 941s in this year for the first 3 quarters. You'll be required to file that 941 for end of year, and your 940, which is always the end of the year anyway, that has to be filed along it with your W-2s, your 1099s, and submit all those electronically this year. You do not have to go backwards into quarter 1, quarter 2, or quarter 3 and file those electronically. It's looking at anything that you're submitting that includes the end of the year of 2023 plus any new filings 2024 moving forward. So we're going to stop and have your first poll question.
Excellent. And no other questions so far. So Debbie, everything is perfectly clear. So here's our first poll question. Number 1, which version of GP are you using? Are you older than 18.0? Are you 18.0 through 18.4? Are you on 18.5? We understand that you might not know what version you're on, but I'll give this a few more moments.
And as they're answering their question, they might want to think about, if you don't know, start finding out. And if you don't know how to find out what you're on, if you'll write back out to us, we will tell you how to find it. Because if you know that you're on 18.3 or forward, remember we can import those 1099 files and forms into your system so that you can print your forms internally and not have to buy forms.
Great suggestions. All right, I'm going to be closing up the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I will share the results. So here we are. So it looks like the vast majority are on 18.5, which is good news. And for those of you who are on the 18.0 through 18.4, let us know if you want to take Debbie up on her offer to show you how to figure out where you are. Or excuse me, for the I don't knows, which are another 24%, and we will help with that. So hang on a second. There is a question in the Q&A. And Debbie, here it is. With the year-end update, does that advance us to the next level?
The year-end update should get you to the next level. It also will give you some of the new features and the new form. It will also give you the new features and new forms that are coming out.
Great. And then there's another question. Do the various types of forms have to be submitted electronically together? We have one person who handles payroll and another who handles AP 1099s. So will they need to coordinate submitting the forms?
No, they're two separate pieces. There is one import link that you're using inside their web page to send in the wage files, whereas there's a totally different link that you use for the 1099. So it's two separate imports, and they can be done at any time. One can be done at the beginning of the month, where something else is done at the end of the month. So as you finish reconciling either one, you can submit either one independently.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, so it looks like there's no more questions in the Q&A, so I'm going to move forward. Except it is not moving forward. There you go. I want to go forward though, and went backwards. All right, I am sorry about this. I'm going to stop sharing for a second and fix the slide deck.
While we're
All right.
waiting to get our technical difficulties handled, maybe I'd love to see in the chat how many of you will be attending Community Summit next week in Charlotte. The shy group or no one's going, one of the two.
All right, so now that I got it working again, I'm going to share my screen.
There we go.
Okay, so Microsoft has told us that there's numerous trustworthy sites that can be used to get the electronic submission forms in, and they are not going to be adding any new code in the upgrade for 8 to 18.6 or to get to do the functions inside of GP. Instead, they wanted to give you plenty of options to help you get started with researching and finding a solution that works for you. Now, we're not saying that any of these are the solution that I would choose. They just gave us a list of the research they've already done and took information that had been given to them by other customers and made up this list. This is something that we have done internally to be able to help customers and that wanted to do some electronic filing last year and use the 1099s that IRS said that you could use this new link for. So this was something that we did. We had the users run the 1099 process in GP. They were going to be creating the file and printing the documents. And once all that is completed and they know it's all correct, an electronic upload file can be created. And depending on what you're using, we might have to move columns and change things up to meet the requirements of whichever tool you use to import with. But the file can be used either as a smart list builder, an E1 Smart Connect export, or an SSRS report. And it will be saved down to your hard drive so that you can then use it to either import into a tool or use the IRS website. This electronic submission has all these different zeros and things on the file, which is why we've designed it and had one of our programmers build it so it meets the specifications, and it's been tested out that it does work. So this is an example of what it looks like and how it has to be laid out to be able to get the data in. But there's other options that we can use. So of course we have the IRS, the free filing solution that they have that was put in last year that was used in while we had the solution that I just showed you. There's 1099 Pro, 1099, etc. Green Shades has theirs. And one thing we need to note on Green Shades, for every week that it takes you to get your files ready for them to send out, the cost escalates. So you might, let's say, and I'm just throwing numbers out there. So let's just say it was $1 per form the first week. It might become $1.25 the second week. It might be $1.50 the third week, etc. So what I'm saying is it's going to escalate. No clue what their cost is going to be this year. I'm just showing you an example of historically it's been an escalation of cost per form to send out the longer it takes you to get the files out. So if you're going to use Green Shades or really any of these tools, because you don't want to be at the end and them scrambling to get everybody's data out, you might want to think about doing some pre-work and reconciling your payroll through Q3 to make sure everything is right. Reconcile your 1099s and make sure it looks right, that everybody that's supposed to be an NEC is set up as an NEC, that they're not sitting in miscellaneous in a wrong cell somewhere, etc. And do that research now to save yourself time when it becomes end of year. I'm now in January and I'm scrambling to do month end close, plus do all these year end forms. So my suggestion is start early and start doing some practice runs to test to see if your data is valid. There's other solution as well. Tax 1099, eSmart Payroll, W2 Mate, Atrix, ADP, eFile Biz, and there's many more that you might be able to find out there searching the internet. The ones that have been listed are ones that Microsoft and or us have had clients use to get their 1099s and or 1099s and W2s out to the end user, your person that you paid, and make sure it made it into IRS and Social Security. So we're going to stop for poll question 2.
And Debbie, you had mentioned that all of these links that you've just shared, will include a Word document on the follow-up with the links to all of these solutions.
Yes, I will. I don't want people to have writer's cramp or try to go backwards and write them all down. So I thought that giving y'all a Word document for how to get your tax information current with SSA is correct, how to get the AccuWage, how to get all of these different 1099 solutions to get your files up to the government. Put them all in a Word document so you can just rapidly use it, copy paste the links, and review anything to figure out what solution you want to use.
Excellent. So our second poll question is, when was the last time your organization participated in a BPR, business process review, with your technology partner? The other thing to think about here is not only how long ago, but have you added solutions or modules since your last BPR? Because with the new additions, there's probably new efficiencies that can be gained. And this is really to protect your investment in your solution, to make sure that you're utilizing things correctly, to identify gaps, to plan for the future, to make sure that your systems can keep up with the growth of your business. It's a very worthwhile exercise to go through. So I'll give it a few more moments. Those of you who want CPE, we have to answer these questions, so be sure that I don't want you to miss out. So I'll close this up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And here are the results. Looks like half don't know. Congratulations to the 12% who have done one within the last year. For the 12% who have never done it, it's probably something that you want to look into, as well as if it's been more than 5 years. And congratulations also to those who have done it within the last 2 years. And LBMC Technology Solutions can help you with this. So reach out to your strategic account manager or contact any of us at info@lbmctech.com, and we can get you going on this process if you'd like.
All right. Microsoft has come out with a new 1099 SQL view. And this view is using the table where all this information is stored at, and it summarizes the 1099 amounts and can be linked to Smart List Designer so users can verify the amounts in a Smart List. Historically, most of us have printed a 1099 payables transaction report out of Smart List, sent it out, summarized it ourselves, reviewed the data, and used it as our way to be able to prove that the values are correct on our 1099s. With this view, nobody has to go out and export data and do subtotals, etc. So it's all being done and driven by this view. It makes it very nice not to be able to do it by hand, but you can still export this to Excel and review it and use it as needed to make sure that what you're seeing on the 1099s is correct. This view currently is for the 2022 forms, and normally later this year, they'll come out with whatever 2023 changes are, and we'll update this report so that it can be sent in. Currently, if you want to have this view set up, we could set it up for you, and you can go back and run the view and compare against the 2022 forms that were sent out to make sure your totals are exactly the same. So that you could have it now, and then we could just update the view, basically paste over and change the SQL command in the background that's running the view, and give you the 2023 version later. So if y'all want to have this set up for you, if you reach out and write tech support and tell them that you're wanting the 1099 SQL view, we can get into the hands of the people that can get it set up for you and be able to use that view. So this year, there will be rate changes. This is what's out there currently, and this is what we're expecting to be rolled out. So Social Security is supposed to be changing the wage limit again. It raised in 2022. It's raising it in 2023. It raised in 2024. The way things are going, it'll probably keep raising every year, but we don't know that yet. Since the rates are changing, it will be part of the payroll tax table update. And if you're on a current version of GP, this rate table will be able to be imported in. If you're on an older version, there are ways that we can show you to import it manually, or manually input the information, I should say, and fix the rate tables yourself. Normally, you have to update your SUTA and FUTA rates, and it's done manually. And I've told you where to go take care of that. And 401k limits are also changing in 2023. Between 2022 and 2023, there were changes. In 2023 to 2024, there's changes. And if you kind of look at the totals here, there's 30,500. So we get 500 extra dollars that we can save. Last year was 30,000. So it is a $500 extra. And for some of us, we'll take every bit we can to try to get it non-taxed, only taxed when we take it out of retirement funds later. So it is a nice way for people to save, but this information has to be set up and fixed on the benefit setup window. When you set it up there, it will ask you if you want to roll down the change. You're going to say yes, and it goes and fixes everybody's 401k. So we're going to skip to poll question 3.
All right. Poll question number 3. Is your organization planning to move to the cloud in the next 2 years? Yes, no, I don't know are the options for this particular poll question. And if you are among the folks that are thinking about moving to the cloud in the next 2 years, on November 9th, we will be offering, and you should have received an invite to Journey to the Cloud. And we're bringing in our on-site team member who is an expert in change management to talk about how important a well thought out process is, not just for moving to the cloud, but for moving to any solution. But of course, with the changes in technology, cloud ERP is certainly top of mind right now. And I'm going to give a few more seconds on the poll. So again, if you are looking to receive CPE credit, please get your answer in right now. And if you'd like to go to Journey to the Cloud, but you haven't received an invite, let me know in the Q&A and I'll make sure to look it up. But we sent one out a while back, and we do have some folks that have already registered. So we'll close this up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And here are the results. 29% are looking to move to the cloud in the next 2 years. We've got another 35% who will not be, and 35% who don't know. Now is the time to start planning, because you want to make change based on your timetable, not someone else's. So wanted to plant that seed, and hopefully you can join us for Journey to the Cloud.
Okay, we're going to move on to the 18.6 new features. So on the financial summary inquiry, adding the redisplay button, and I've highlighted in green, you can now choose and then change my year, hit redisplay, and get the information to come up. So the redisplay allows me to make this window change. Let's say I have the window open and I went and did a journal entry and I posted it. I came back to this window, I can hit redisplay and I can see my values change. I don't have to close the window, reopen the window, and trigger it to recognize that I posted a journal entry. So it saves in that agitation of getting in and out of a window by having that redisplay window. Personally, I enjoy that because I like to do things in minimal clicks as possible or minimal key punching as possible. Reverse fiscal year end close by company versus all users being out of Great Plains. And what this is saying, historically, you can't reverse a historical year because users are logged into the system. This message is going to change. It's going to let you know that somebody is in the company you are trying to reverse and not without having to have everybody out of GP. So in other words, as long as you are the sole person in the company that you want to reverse a year end, you will be able to do this. If there's any other user in the database that you need to reverse the year end, you're going to have to get the other user out to be able to roll it back, make whatever changes, and then close it again. So it's going to be a company by company. It's no longer going to look to see if there's any users other than yourself in to be able to do this year-end rollback. For some of us that have had companies, I have a client that has over 120 companies, many users, and trying to get everybody out and doing it late at night was very annoying for them. Having this feature, it just says I have to have all users out of that one database I need to make a change in, and they can do it during the middle of the day and roll on and get their year end fixed and keep going. So for them, it's going to be very helpful. So in customer statements, display open items only. Prior to 18.6, the detail on that customer statement, even if it was fully paid, I'm still seeing the sales and the payment. But if I had done the remove paid transaction task that is in the system, I wouldn't see these two. If I had not run that paid transaction removal tool, then I'm going to see what's on the screen. So unless I always did the paid transaction removal prior to running statements, I would see what was on the screen. In the new version, still using that exclude fully applied payments, this is what you would get. I would no longer see the $100 in there. I'm only going to see transactions that had a current balance not equal to 0. So it's very helpful that I might not have rights to do paid transaction removal, but somebody else does, but I need to get a statement out. I can now have a clean statement without showing the busyness of an invoice that was paid with the payment and it had been moved to history. So hence it's still on my statement. This version makes it easier for your customers to see truly what they owe without having to look through all of the positives and negatives that are showing up on the report. So one of the other new features is to email and reprint vendor remittance with the message fields. You've been able to do this, but what's happening is when I reprint it, these additional attachments and the document numbers and these things that you have down in the body were not showing up when I reprinted it. It only showed up the first time I printed it. So with this feature, it's going to change where it will save that information and allow that exact document that you sent the first time to be regenerated and sent back out again. This won't work. I can't copy this back to this form like I can the 1099s into an older version because there are new fields that have been added to tables to save this information so they can put it back on the form and send it back out. So this is a form that we cannot put back in 18.5 or 18.4, et cetera. It's only going to be available in 18.6 moving forward.
Debbie, on your previous slide, the question, not this one, but I believe the one before, the question came up, does this mean we don't have to remove payments anymore?
I will say two things. Do you have to? The answer is no if you want to get this statement out. Is it best practice to move into history so that when I'm doing other reporting, it's not in my way and other reports take longer? Yes. Okay. But do you have to do it? Some clients were doing almost every day paid transaction removal. This will allow people to say, at the end of the month, I'm going to use paid transaction removal and take care of the last 60 days or 30 days and move things to history. And I'm not doing it every day just so I can get a statement out. So if I was a person doing collections for my company, they would be thrilled with this because I can print it anytime I want and always have a valid statement without paid transactions showing up on it, without having to ask somebody to do the paid transaction removal. Is it best? Yes. Okay. But you could go back and, like I said, do it once a month and say, I'm keeping the last 30 days of paid transactions removed that are fully paid in my open and moving everything else to history. Why some people do a month's worth is if you're not reconciling your bank statement every day, at least do it once a month. And I know that if I need to make a correction because I did my bank reconciliation and there was a mistake, I could get it fixed. If I've moved it to history, you have to use Professional Service Tools Library to bring back a fully paid document from sales back into the open tables and receivables to make whatever adjustments I need and redo the paid transaction removal. So it causes more problems if you, one, don't have Pistol for Professional Service Tools Library installed. If I'm doing the paid transaction removal daily and I hadn't reconciled. So it's all depends on your process of when you move things to paid, when you do your bank reconciliation, and if you have that professional service tool library installed so you can use it to drive a transaction back to open status. Those are the pieces that you have to have a control over or know what your process is so that we can determine what your best path is. But for collections people, they're going to love it. For other daily processes, it's going to be up to what's best for you. Okay, so I'm going to move back to this. Does anybody have questions on the vendor remittance before I move forward? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move to the next one. Like I said previously, all 1099 forms are now going to have the boxes and the lines for miscellaneous interest, dividend, and the NEC that was built last year that people used. So this year, if you're in 18.3 to 18.6, we can import this package with all these forms into your system, and you will not have to go buy the forms to be able to print, to be able to send out. So this is something that you might want to look into about getting set up in your system. All right, on our navigation list, and we're using those. There has always been a field for batch source, but you had to know what it was and fill in the blank. They have now given us drop-down list that we can go choose which type of batch source we want to show up on this report that we're looking at using the navigation list. You can choose one or more using this list, which makes it nice. But it's a lot better than trying to guess what the correct nomenclature is to get the correct form that for your batch source. It just makes it easier. So that batch source has always been a choice. They've just enhanced the field by having a drop-down list.
Debbie, can you go back one more slide?
Oop.
And the question is, does this import come free?
This import is going to be, we've got a package and it's out there and we can work with y'all to get it in. Y'all need to reach out and talk to tech support and say that you'd like to have the package file so that we can get the file out to y'all. And there are instructions about how you have to get it in. If you're not comfortable getting it in yourself, we can help you get the package file in. But you need to write tech support so that we know that you're needing help with it so we can get the package files out. Is that the only question?
Wait, another one just popped in. But is the package file free or is there a cost?
It's a file. No, it's not. The only thing that's going to cost you is if we need to spend 10-15 minutes with you to show you how to import it. We'll send you the instructions, but if you cannot get it in yourself or having problems with it, it should not take more than 15 minutes to help you get it imported in. But I'll give you one piece of information. All users, if you're using a shared reports dictionary, which most people do, all users will have to be out of Great Plains while we're importing the file, and then they can get back in again. But the file can be sent out to you. We just, to be able to track who wants it, if you send it through tech support, we can reply and send package files out.
Very good.
And just so everybody knows, why I'm asking you to do the tech support is if it's there, a ticket's made, we make sure it's taken care of. If you're sending out emails to individual people, it might get buried in their email somewhere. So if you do it through tech support, we're tracking it and we're making sure things get taken care of.
Great point.
All right. Print and email cash receipts. A lot of times, a customer wants to know how you applied their check they sent you. They told you how they wanted it applied, and they want a copy of this cash receipt back showing how it was applied. So you can do this, but there is a new Word template that is for cash receipts, and there is setup that has to happen. So if you notice on this screen, it says mass customer email settings. I need to set that up. I need to turn it on. I need to write myself a new message. And what type of document am I going to send? A Word document, a PDF? What am I going to send? Just a few little pieces of information about this new feature. You can't print the cash receipts in bulk from the receivables batch window. It can only be done from the all sales transaction navigation list. Because that navigations list is that blue bar on the left-hand side of your screen. And using that, I can choose a batch from there and send out the cash receipts. My suggestion would be to make sure that you had a unique batch ID for cash receipts that you can easily identify to be able to send them out. A lot of people will reuse a batch ID. So maybe I'm using 2023 1010, saying 2023 October 10 and cash receipt. But then I use 2023, I use the same thing, but I'm doing another batch of cash receipts and I say cash receipt as well. If I'm doing the second set of cash receipts, I want to put a 1 or 2 behind it. It's my second batch for the day. Because then I can print the first batch the first time and I can go put in the batch ID of 2023 10 cash receipt 2 and send that batch of cash receipts out. If I have multiple people doing cash receipts, you might want to put their initials at the back end of it, something to make it unique, to be easily found, and not send the same person more than once for that day a cash receipt. So having unique batch IDs would be preferable to do this process. And this is what it looks like. I have to make sure that the email address is set up. And I'm going to go in, I'm going to go choose the batch I want to send. I've got it limited. And once I do, I can hit that send an email. And once I do that, I can hit the send button and it will go out. But these were all the payments that were in that one batch. All right, we have print sales order processing blank picking ticket template. I want to be able to use this print sales document. Previously, prior to 18.6, when I tried to do this, I could only print it directly to the printer. With having this feature on the left turned on, the print separate picking ticket per site. Now with it on, it will allow me to do the template. With having a template, I can now get them sent out using the template I like to use. But the template was not an option. I could only use the standard form and not a template. All right. Set the unit of measure from the PO requisition to the purchase order. If you notice on the bottom left of the first picture, it's circled where the unit of measure is. If I say use the requisition line unit of measure, when I do my purchase order, it sends it over to the purchase order module to go ahead and do the purchasing. By doing this, then my purchaser can look at this. If I'm saying I need to have one case of something versus one each of something, I want what I have in my requisition to make it over to my purchase order, which is what this is trying to do for you, is bring it over. And nothing's being changed or updated in the purchase order processing piece. Oh, there's 5 questions up there. What's up? Is there something I need to pause for?
No.
Okay. All right. So format workflow emails with item decimals. Historically, on these workflow emails, and I'm using a document amount, it sends out 5 decimal places. So if you look at the top picture, the document amount, which is the second number up, and the subtotal all have 5 decimals. In this new release, it is following the currency decimal places for my document. So it's now going to be 15, not 15 with 3 zeros behind it. Another example is, this is from a requisition. It's saying I have all those zeros again, but my item that I requisitioned only has 1 decimal place. So it's going to follow my items decimal places and put in that in the unit cost. So if people use project accounting, one of the biggest complaints is trying to be able to get data for yourself that it includes just your team or just an individual employee. So this My Team Expenses in delegates list does this for you. So you're going to modify so we can see who the workflow user is. And once I know that information, I can go on and run my team expenses, and I can get and choose just the workflow user that I need and sort and get the information that's applicable to my department or to myself. The same thing is available for my timesheet list. So I can limit it down to where it's my timesheets or the timesheets for my team. And I do not have to see every timesheet for that document date. So this helps in limiting the data and not have to sort through data that I don't need. This is one of my favorite new features for us people that love to do payroll and help people with their payroll. I can tell you for a fact that this payroll year-end wage report that we're seeing here has had minimal changes since 1988. Long time coming, okay? If you notice on here that the wage, tips, and other, the Social Security, all these amounts down below have no commas in it. And when you have a bunch of zeros and trying to count zeros and figure out where your comma is supposed to show up to help you read these numbers, it's very difficult. So with 18.6, if you notice, I have commas in all these beautiful places, and I can see my values, and it makes it really nice to read. For us people that do payroll year end close and help them get it done, these visuals are really helpful. All right, another feature that's really a human resources feature, there's a feature in there called test. So people need to have particular tests to meet OSHA standards, or I need to have it because I need to have somebody certified in a particular government regulated process. So, and I need them to make sure that they have these tests done and completed to stay certified. Example for accountants, I need to keep my CPA license. I need to have all these CPE hours and have it completed by your birthday, and it's due every so many years. Having this set up and being able to get that information out that, hey, you're 2 months out before it's due. People were pulling data by using smart lists and getting those due dates and then writing people an email. They have set up this writing letters where I can actually go to the employee card and choose the letter for skills and tests that need to be updated and send out a report to let them know that they have things that are due. So this is what that letter by default looks like. You have skills, and I've obtained the skills that were assigned to me. If there's an expiration date, I'm gonna let you know when it is and is the skill required. Doing the same thing for the test. So this is a way that I can get that information back out to each individual employee and let them know that they have tasks that they need to take care of to keep their testing and their skill sets up to date. All right, there's also a new letter writing assistant file notice on collection letters. The letter, it's been there itself, but the detail that's on the letter has not always been there. So they've updated the collections letter to look more like this, and it can be changed, of course, but it now tells you what their outstanding invoices is, and all the detail that they need to know is showing up on that collections letter. Completely delete document attachments from the system. There's a new box that has to be checked. So you have a setup that has to be taken care of. Then I can choose an item and hit the little red icon on the far right. And once I do that, it sends it to the deleted. Once it makes it here and I choose it, I can now hit the delete button in the upper left and make it go away. And it's not just going away from the window, it is totally removing it from inside a GP. So the shared mailbox with multi-factor authentication, MFA, it's a feature that can be set up, and there's a bunch of slides I'm getting ready to flip through for all the setup that has to happen to do this. I will say that we have a team of people that can help you get this set up and get it working, but there is many setups that have to be done to get this up and running. And the shared mailboxes is one of the most asked for things because I have multiple people in the AR team or the AP team, and I need a shared box to get this information back and forth. So this is asked for a lot. But there's setup that has to be done in multiple screens. And I have to set up things that are way past the GP team skill set. You have to use IT to get some of this set up. And this is another piece that has to be done by IT team. And there are times you get this message and there are fixes that they sent out to go along with this message to go back and show you what's missed on it. Normally, this message comes up because a user is not inside the correct group that they are assigned to in the email system. And once you fix that, it will fix this where they no longer get this error message. This last one, which is the last new feature, is the modern authentication and a single tenant app. And this has to do with using Azure and what I can use. I've always previously had to have multi, but you can now use single as well. And this is something else that your IT team would set up, or we could help y'all get this set up. And then there's an answer inside that has to be set up. So now we're going to go to poll question 4.
This is the last one. So here we are. I would be interested in, and you can check all that apply. More information on Cloud ERP, 2023 GP year-end closing for GP modules. The third option there is GP year-end closing for 2023 payroll modules. Hearing more about a business process review or none of the above. And you can choose more than one. All right. Maybe I'm taking a look and there aren't any more questions in the Q&A. While we're wrapping this up, Margaret did share. Oh, wait, here's one. We're on version 18.5, 1635 that we just updated to this year with Sandy. Do we get updates to that would include going to this new version of 18.6?
No, it's a new upgrade to get to 18.6. But if you want the 1099 forms, we can get those to you.
All right. And I'm sorry, apparently with the poll question, you can't choose more than one. So choose the one that you are most interested in. I'm sorry that wasn't set up correctly for you.
Okay, so people know GP modules is anything but payroll module. And we separated it because payroll is, I will say, an animal of itself to do the year-end close. And there are more people that don't do pay than do payroll. So we do it as two separate classes just for that reason.
Great. And more information will be coming out on that. We'll be offering 2 different times that you can choose from for each of those year-end closing training sessions. All right. Back to you, Debbie.
I can't move until I think the poll is closed.
Try now.
I'm trying. It's being ornery. You know how it is.
Yeah. Okay, all the poll questions have ended, so they are no longer live.
There we go. We know we've been answering questions. Okay, right. See, there's somebody in Q&A that just popped up.
I just saw that. Yes, to clarify, installing the year-end update does or doesn't take us to 18.6.
It to my knowledge, and I will verify this, it does not bring you to 18.6. It just gives you the year-end pieces that you have to be able to meet tax requirements. So you should be getting some of the payroll changes that have to be in to be able to file maybe a new 1099, something that might change that needs to be put in so you can get your 1099s out. But it does not bring you to 18.6 to give you all the new features.
All right. There are no more questions in the Q&A.
Then that's the answer. Then we are complete for the day. And I think we're a little bit over, and I'm sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right. Thank you, Debbie. Really great information today. And everyone, as we mentioned at the top of the presentation, we'll be sending you the slides, we'll be sending you the recording, a survey, and also a Word document with all of the links that Debbie has shared with us this afternoon. So thanks, everyone.